There is a mirror that remains in the house even when almost everything else has been replaced. It does not demand attention, and it does not announce its presence. It simply stays, leaning against the wall, collecting light without returning it fully. The surface is intact, cold, functional, and yet something about it feels delayed, as if the act of reflecting has become a habit rather than a response. Dust settles without resistance. Time passes without ceremony. In this room, nothing appears broken, but nothing feels alive either. The mirror holds the quiet authority of objects that have seen too much without ever intervening. It suggests that identity can persist as a structure long after its substance has thinned, and that absence does not always arrive through rupture. Sometimes it arrives politely, without leaving marks, asking only to be ignored. At first, the change is almost imperceptible. You move, and the reflection follows, but not with urgency. There is a subtle hesitation, small enough to dismiss, easy enough to rationalize. Life, after all, continues to function. Days unfold according to expectation. Conversations occur, responsibilities are met, and the image presented to the world remains coherent. The mirror confirms this coherence faithfully. It shows posture, outlines, proportions. It offers proof that everything is still where it should be. Yet beneath this functional agreement between movement and image, something essential no longer answers. The reflection does not contradict you, but it does not confirm you either. It agrees in shape, not in presence, and that difference quietly accumulates. This distance does not emerge from a single moment. It is not born from collapse, tragedy, or dramatic loss. It is built slowly, through small concessions that feel reasonable at the time. Each adaptation makes sense. Each compromise appears temporary. The mirror absorbs these changes without comment, recording only what remains visible. Over time, certain gestures disappear from the reflection, not because they are forbidden, but because they are no longer practiced. The mirror does not erase them, it simply stops receiving them. What once felt natural becomes unfamiliar, and what feels familiar begins to feel hollow. The surface still reflects a person, but not the weight of being one. There comes a moment when looking at the mirror is no longer neutral. The act carries tension. The gaze lingers longer than necessary, searching not for flaws, but for confirmation. The reflection remains cooperative, offering symmetry and continuity, yet something about it feels insufficient. It shows a life that works, a form that fits, an arrangement that holds together, but it does not reveal why this arrangement feels distant, or why presence feels thinner than effort. The mirror begins to feel less like a tool and more like a witness, silent, impartial, incapable of comfort. What the mirror reflects now is surface. It returns posture without intention, expression without origin. It offers the outline of a self that has learned how to remain acceptable. There is no accusation in this reflection, no judgment, no failure. And that is precisely what makes it unsettling. Nothing appears wrong enough to fix. Nothing appears broken enough to justify change. The mirror confirms stability while quietly revealing emptiness, and in doing so, it exposes a dilemma without resolution. You are still here, but you are no longer entirely inhabited. Silence begins to change its weight. It is no longer passive. It becomes attentive. The room feels larger, not because it has expanded, but because nothing inside it demands focus anymore. The mirror remains open, refusing closure. It does not shatter,
cloud over, or darken completely. It simply continues, offering exactly what is brought to it. The distance between body and reflection becomes visible, not as a gap, but as a tension that holds. It is no longer accidental. It is recognized. The mirror never failed. It never misrepresented, distorted, or betrayed. It reflected precisely what was still present and nothing more. The loss did not occur within the glass. It occurred gradually, elsewhere, beyond the surface, in moments that did not seem important enough to remember. The mirror's honesty becomes unavoidable only when there is nothing left to hide behind. It does not accuse you of leaving yourself behind. It only shows what remained after you did.
After this recognition, nothing demands correction. There's no instruction, no solution offered by the reflection. The mirror does not propose a return, nor does it suggest a departure. It remains indifferent to intention. In this indifference, something shifts. The need to perform coherence weakens. The effort to maintain an image loses its urgency. Remaining becomes an act in itself, stripped of justification. The room does not change, yet it feels different. The mirror stays where it has always been, but its presence is no longer incidental. It becomes a fixed point against which movement feels optional. The reflection waits, not for action, but for inhabitation. It does not demand that you recover what was lost. It does not promise that anything can be restored. It simply remains available. What is reflected now is not absence alone, but the awareness of it. This awareness does not resolve the distance, but it alters its meaning. The separation between who you appear to be and who you feel yourself to be is no longer hidden behind function. It stands quietly, without urgency, without spectacle. The mirror continues to reflect exactly what is still inhabited, and nothing else. In this suspended state, there is no conclusion. The mirror does not close, and the reflection does not disappear entirely. The image remains incomplete, waiting without expectation. Time does not advance toward clarity. It rests inside uncertainty. The house holds this moment without comment, allowing it to exist without pressure. Perhaps this is what it means to be lost without being broken, to remain visible without being present, to recognize yourself without fully returning. The mirror does not answer these questions. It does not need to. It simply stays, reflecting what is still there, patient enough to wait for whatever may or may not come back. And so the reflection waits, not as a promise, not as a threat, but as an open space. Nothing is resolved, yet nothing can be ignored. The mirror holds the final silence, not to close the story, but to let it remain unfinished, exactly as it is.